Okay, so good morning, everyone. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to welcome you all to the session covering the topic of life, set local and regional energy transition, which is a topic that aims to provide local and regional authorities with the necessary capacity, integrated approaches, and organizational structures to deliver and implement plans and strategies for the clean energy transition. My name is Vivian Dorizas, and I'm a project advisor within the Clean Energy Transition team of CINEA, and I have the honor of chairing this specific session. A warm welcome to every one of you that is attending us online, and a warm welcome to all of us speakers. I guess many of you already attended the plenary session this morning, which was very rich and covered several topics, including the introduction to the clean energy transition, the policy overview, and on how to make an excellent proposal. So now I would like to provide you a high-level overview of what today's agenda of the session that will cover. Firstly, we will start with a policy update by our colleague Pierluca Merola, Policy Officer of the DG Energy. And after that, we will dive into the specific topic of the local itself, where my colleague Michele Sansoni and Elisa Martellucci will present the clean energy transition plans and strategies in municipalities and regions. Next on the agenda, will be the lessons learned from experienced coordinators. And during this slot, Tomislav Novosel and Sara Slojanova will present their key learnings from when they prepared their applications for their projects in plan and repower the regions respectively. Finally, we will open the floor to the questions. And for the Q&A session, we will be using Slido. You can already log into the slido.com using the hashtag of EULive24, and make sure you select from the drop-down menu the specific parallel session referring to the local and regional energy transition of the session. We encourage you to submit your questions in Slido and vote for the ones that you find particularly interested, and these will appear on top, the one that is the most popular. So without any further ado, I will pass the floor to Pierluca Merola to give us a policy background. Pierluca is a policy officer, DG Energy of the European Commission. Please, Pierluca.
Thank you very much, Vivian, and welcome and hi again, or welcome to those that just connected to this session on the local topic. So from my side, I will give you a policy update, some of the element, and I will repeat from today's plenary, but and go more in detail. But it's also because, as you know, these sessions are recorded and might be viewed by potential applicant later on. So it's I will do a bit of repetition. But if we can then move to the next slide, I will go over the policy framework and focus now, when it comes to the different policy framework, on the elements that are most relevant for the local topic and for the potential applicant to the local topic. One important element to state overall and to recall is that when we look at the EU energy transition policy, and in particular the Fit for 55 legislative package, the Energy Efficiency Directive, the Renewable Energy Directive, and the Energy Performance of Building Directive, now we have a final agreed legislative framework at EU level, and the transposition has started in the different member states. And we will be, member state will transpose from till end of 2025, early 2026. But in the meantime, there is also the need to start to deliver on the policy implementation to achieve the 2030 target. So I wanted to mention this because we are really now with the end of the current mandate, of the current Commission mandate, on moving forward to really the implementation, transposition, and also activation of financing and investment to achieve our the target agreed by our political master, by the European Parliament and the different government of the EU member states. So the Energy Efficiency Directive, this is of course the key directive setting the target for energy efficiency overall, and with national contribution by the different member states. The target is set at a reduction of 11.7%, which is binding in terms of final energy consumptions, and needs to be met by the different national contributions that are set by member state in their National Energy and Climate Plan, NECP. So when it comes to, let's say, more of the local actors type of role, you know probably very well that many of these actions, especially when we speak about energy efficiency, small scale renewables, and in general term what we mean by action on the energy demand side of the energy transition, those addressed by the Life Clean Energy Transition Program, happen at local level on the ground, very close to citizens, because we speak about projects that often happen in cities or in general in local communities, and where the local communities have a direct role. Being an owner or be it also a facilitator for this. Regarding the idea, I would say that there are three main elements that are of interest. The first one is clearly the provision on the exemplary role of public buildings that now are extended to all public bodies, so including local and regional authorities and other public entities. The provision on the efficient district heating and cooling system for those countries, and there are many where the district heating are particularly relevant to both for the energy transition, but to supply heating into homes of the citizen. And here there are the need to introduce the directive introduced the legal requirement to have local heating and cooling plans, setting out the investment and ambitions toward indeed toward the energy transition when it comes to heating and cooling. And thank you for moving to the next slide. And then the last but not least point is the role of local of the local level when it comes to activating financing and also facilitating structures such as one-stop shop. If in terms of the public sector, just to recall, there is a general obligation to reduce by 1.9% each year the final energy consumption of all public bodies. The member state in the transposition will, of course, identify those bodies and those specific buildings that will be will fall within this obligation. If we can move to the next slide. I wanted indeed to speak about the heating and cooling plan. The local authorities are requested, with a population higher than 45,000, are requested to prepare local heating and cooling plan. And the local topics really also goes into direction and provide support also for this purpose. In order, of course, to identify the potential for possible high efficiency or efficient district heating and cooling, waste heat recovery, and deployment, of course, of renewable energy sources. If we can move to the next slide, please, and move to the Renewable Energy Directive. In this regard, what I would like to underline, beside the overall ambition, where we at the EU level, the target in terms of renewable share has been doubled compared to the previous framework. Now, by 2030, there is a need to have a 42.5% of renewable generation in the energy system. What is particularly relevant, I would say, for local authorities, beside, of course, the deployment in their territory, is as well the provision on permitting. And in this regard, if we can move to the next slide, it's important to mention that member states are required to map in their NCP the areas for the so-called renewable acceleration areas, where basically a number of elements are recognized from the EU-level legislation to let's say to have some more administratively faster proceeding for the deployment of renewables. And this can be also an interesting element for local authorities to participate in this discussion, and of course to identify the renewable acceleration areas over in their territory for the different type of possible renewable generation, as well as for grid and storage. This is also particularly relevant. If we can move to the next slide, to the energy performance of building directive. In this regard, I will not, of course, recall the overall ambition of the PPD. That is on one side to trigger on the short to medium term much more renovation, and that's what is happening currently. And on the other side, of course, to provide the long-term perspective for fully decarbonized business stock on 2050. But I would mention that, of course, when we speak about buildings, actions and happen also for non-public building, they happen at local level. And it is clear that local authorities sometimes they're also owner of public residential building, social housing, public housings, and in that regard, it's particularly relevant to intervene in this regard and to take into account of this general obligation and general objective. If we can move to the next slide, please. In this slide somehow is quite heavy. It doesn't always appear faster, but yes, to mention in this regard the difference when it comes to the PBD of these new tools of the minimum energy performance standard for the non-residential building stock, and national renovation trajectories for the residential part, which in particular for the residential trajectory, here we will member state will have to define according to some common criteria in the EU legislation, the building submitted to the building stock submitted to the obligation, in order that 55% of saving should be achieved in worst performing building. This is the key requirement. There are, of course, exemption allowed across the two, and the member state will define the overall, as said, what type of stock to exempt. If we can move to the next slide, I wanted to come to I would say the role of local. Of the local level when it comes to the activation of investment, because one of the main challenge, and I will mention it, that we address including with this topic, is to develop an enabling financing framework for activating energy efficiency, building renovation, and local renewable projects that can take advantage of blending public resources with the private investment as well, and use it also some, let's say, financial architecture in order to maximize the public resources that are available, which are important, but of course will not be sufficient to meet the overall need. And there is I wanted to mention this because I think that cities and local authorities play an important role in this regard, in establishing partnership with private financial institutions, also in the framework, of course, of their own commitment when it comes to the sustainable energy and climate action plans, and of course those that participate in the 100 cities for carbon neutral cities. If we can move to the next slide, I will just mention that in this regard, when it comes to the financing element, there are a number of work stream that we are implementing at the EU central level that can be beneficial to take into account. In particular, when we speak about the drivers to catalyze private investment, one key role is played by technical assistance. there are in another parallel session later on, of course, we will speak about the project development assistance support that is an option that can come on top or after the investment planning developed as part of the local topics, but also about possible development of innovative financing scheme. And often these happen very much driven by cities. We have example across many EU member state where is indeed the city administration that reflect with local council on how to set up some more innovative financing, also with regard, for instance, on tax or on bill, or make use of energy performance contracting. So these are all elements that I think it's good to take into account when planning the overall energy transition at local level, as well as how to deliver on them in terms of instruments. I think I will stop here. I hope I was not too much over time, and I hope to have given you a bit a general overview of where, let's say, of the policy background that is influencing the opening of these call topics and their implementation by the colleagues from CENEA. Thank you very much, Vivian, and thank you to all.
Perfect. Pierluca, thank you very much for this enlightening presentation on the policy update. Very good. So and now I pass the floor to my other colleagues, Michele Sansoni, who's a senior project advisor at CENEA, and Elisa Martellucci, who's a project advisor at CENEA, who will present dive now into the details of the local and present the clean energy transition plans and strategies in municipalities and regions. Michele, please, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Vivian. Good morning, everybody. Indeed, this is the local topic is dedicated to cities and regions. And if we can immediately move to the first slide, this topic builds on three main principles. So first of all, the recognition that cities and regions are decisive to achieve the ambitious 2030 climate and energy targets of the European Union, and also in the longer term to achieve the objectives of the Green Deal. In the current context, furthermore, they have a key role in phasing out the dependence from fossil fuel imports in the European Union. And of course, as we said in the previous presentation, they can contribute to the requirements of the National Energy and Climate Plans, and also the Energy Efficiency Directive, the Renewable Energy Directive, and the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive. So the idea of this topic is to really provide support to cities and regions so they are able to fulfill this role at their best, and provide local and regional authorities with capacity building, with approaches and structures which can support them in delivering and implementing plans and strategies for the clean energy transition. If we move to the next one, so of course, we know that there are several challenges, and on the one hand, and also needs on the other hand, for cities and regions to be able to fulfill this role. For instance, there is a clear need to develop and reinforce the capacities and skills of public officers so they are able to deliver and implement clean energy transition plans and strategies. There is also the opportunity to not starting from scratch, as there's a lot of actions has been done on this theme. And so there is the opportunity to build on previous experience and also know-how from runner cities and regions. Clearly, there is a need to act in an integrated way, because energy is just one part of the carbon neutrality, and so energy has to be integrated with other sectors. And so we call for action that can support cities and regions in implementing these integrated approaches and mainstream the carbon neutrality across all relevant sectors. Of course, apart from the need for a clear technical support, there is also the need to ensure political commitment, which is key, to ensure that there is an allocation of responsibilities and an identification of appropriate resources and financing opportunities in order to be able to implement and deliver those plans and strategies. And last but not least, it's very important to facilitate the dialogue and collaboration with all government levels and stakeholders, and consider, of course, synergies and cooperation with other complementary initiatives which are supporting cities and regions. So if we move to the next one. So we've seen the challenges, the needs, the context, and then with this topic, we are calling for proposals to work on different areas of work. There are three main areas of work, and it's worth stressing that it is equally relevant if projects cover only one or more of the areas, and in particular, addressing more than one point does not necessarily increase the relevance of the proposal. So the first area is extensive and in-depth capacity building programs for cities and regions. The second one is focused on local heating and cooling plans and integrated approaches for that. And the third one is about the establishment or enhancing of organizational structures to coordinate the implementation of clean energy transition plans. So let's have a look at this point in more detail now with the next slide. So the first point is really about capacity building programs, and it clearly responds to the need of supporting the increasing capacity and skills of public officers. So the idea is that we look for actions able to deliver extensive and in-depth capacity building programs for policymakers on the one hand and public officers on the other hand, on how to implement clean energy transition plans and actions. I want to stress again that the focus is about implementation of plans and actions. This capacity building program needs to be ambitious, for instance, in terms of number of trained participants and the volume and depth of the training offer. And we also want that they have lasting effects. So at the end of the capacity building programs, public officer or policymakers should be able to continue implementing actions, sustainable energy actions on the ground. And those programs should also consider the specific needs of the context in which they are activated and also the national languages, if appropriate. So the next point is about local heating and cooling plans. And we've seen that this is a clear requirement in the Energy Efficiency Directive. So here we look for actions which can support cities and regions in developing and piloting blueprints and integrated approaches for actionable heating and cooling plans, which are, of course, aligned with the carbon neutrality goal and other sectoral policies. One element which could be very important to be able to deliver and implement those plans is to bundle efforts at regional or other government levels to provide support services for municipalities on this theme. Because 45,000 inhabitants is the threshold for, it's the threshold for cities to deliver local heating and cooling plans. And that size, considering that size, the regional level could be, for instance, a good governance levels to bundle efforts of different municipalities of that size. Of course, in doing that, it is necessary to facilitate a dialogue with the relevant stakeholders, with citizens and other governance levels, including the national authorities, also taking into account the requirements of the Energy Efficiency Directive. And for the third area, this point is really focused on organizational structures. So we look for proposals which can establish new organizational structure or enhance the existing organizational structure. And these structures have the objective and the aim to mainstream the carbon neutrality goal, to coordinate the implementation and monitoring of clean energy transition plans, to facilitate the exchanges among different governance levels and the dialogue with different governance levels, and to, of course, involve and engage in the objectives of the clean energy transition at local and regional level, public and private stakeholders, including citizens or communities. With this, I think I can give the floor to my colleague Elisa for the rest of the presentation.
Thank you, Michele, and good morning, everybody, also from my side. So building on what was just said, proposals submitted under this topic should contribute to provide capacity, skills, and appropriate structure to local and regional authorities for delivering and implementing plans and strategy for the clean energy transition. Applicants are supposed to quantify result using three main type of indicators. We have topic-specific indicators, which are the most relevant. Then you have also the possibility to present activity-specific indicators, and then we have the common indicators for live set. These indicators should be quantified by the end of the project and after 5 years. If we can move to the next slide, thank you. Here you can see all the topic-specific indicators which you are expected to address. Please bear in mind that not all indicators need to be addressed, only those that are relevant for your work program, the objectives of your proposal. So we have the number of clean energy transition action implemented or initiated, financial resources for implementations, plans, strategy, and actions, number of policies established through the action, the number of policymakers, public officers with improved capacity, and the average number of training hours per participant for capacity building programs, number of institutionalized dialogues and cooperation, and demonstration of secured political commitment and necessary resource, as well as number of organizational structure created or reinforced. If we can move to the next slide. Yes, here we have an overview of the type of co-funding that is given in this topic. So we are talking about 90%, 95% of co-funding, and with an overall budget for this topic of 7 million. The EU contribution expected per proposals is up to 1.75 million, but other amounts can also be proposed. Another important condition to take into account when creating a consortium is to have at least 3 applicants, beneficiaries, from 3 different eligible countries. Next slide, please. So just to repeat some key points that can help potential applicants. Local and regional authorities do not need to be official beneficiaries, so there is no obligation to have them as a beneficiary. However, is key for this type of topic to have them strongly engaged in the proposed activities. Then, as I said before, when talking about the expected impact, those do not need to be addressed, all of them, but only those that are relevant for the scope, the objective, and output of the proposed action. And then when talking about the scope section, proposal should address one or more of the points, provided that the proposed activities are relevant and coherent. However, addressing more than one point does not necessarily increase the relevance of the proposal. Next slide. Here, I want to provide you with an overview of projects that have been already financed. This is a long journey which stemmed from the Horizon 2020 program. And here you can see projects which have all the scope of supporting local and regional authorities in the clean energy transitions, but they do have a different focus. So for example, we have the Prospect project, which is about capacity building activities for municipality to implement and finance SECAPs. CTRAC 50 is a project working on transition plan for carbon neutrality. We also have other planning so-called projects like Decarb City Pipes, Action Heat, which support municipality in developing heating and cooling plants, and CCU, which established a sustainable energy network. So this overview is just to give you a glimpse of what are the proposals, the projects that have been already funded, and you are supposed to build on. So please do consider the state of the art on this topic when thinking about your proposal. And I think with this, I conclude here and I hand over again to Vivian. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elisa. Thank you very much, Michele, for all these details, diving into the topic. And before I invite the next speaker, I would like to remind you once more to use the Slido to upload all your questions and to vote the ones that are already in Slido, the votes, the ones that you find more interesting, so that they appear in the top and we address them first. I see already some questions coming in. Thank you very much for that. So now I would like to invite Tomislav Novosel, who has over 10 years of experience in the field of sustainable energy and energy planning, and has worked on a wide range of EU-funded initiatives, and has experience in writing, coordinating, and evaluating EU projects. So Tomislav, would like to hear from you, your experience and the lessons learned from the process of drafting your application. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the introduction. I hope you can hear and see me well.
Yes.
As said, my name is Tomislav Novosel. I'm an expert advisor at the Northwest Croatia Regional Energy and Development Agency, and I will give you a glimpse into our path to a successful application of the Live CET in-plan project, which I'm coordinating. Next slide, please. So just to give you some basic information on the project. So the project was funded under the Live CET local call. It started on the 1st of October 2022 and will last until the end of March 2026. The budget is just over 1.7 million euros with, of course, the 95% funding rate. And its primary objective is to support local and regional governments in the implementation and the mandating of the implementation of their energy and climate visions through the integration of their energy and climate measures presented in a variety of different planning and strategic documents into their spatial plans, and of course to implement capacity building to facilitate the actual implementation of the developed methodology. Through this presentation, I will give you some general tips and principles that we've used to write this proposal as well as many others, and then follow that up with the practical the practical ways that we've actually implemented this specifically for in-plan. Next slide, please. So the first thing that I would like to highlight is that it's very important to actually understand the topic and have a good understanding of the challenges you actually aim to address. So first and foremost, you actually need to identify the real issue that you plan to address with your proposal. I will very often see people trying to solve a problem that they've identified or that they've invented themselves, and not really trying to solve a problem that actually exists in the real world, specifically here in the realm of local and regional governments. To actually do this, it is very important that you talk to your target audience before you spend any resources on a potentially doomed application. And alongside that, don't try to force a call to match the topic that you would like to do. If what you're trying to do isn't an actual natural fit to the call, you should probably look elsewhere, because on the one hand, the chances of you getting funded are quite low. And even worse, if you do get funded, it will be very difficult to actually achieve the KPIs that you are trying to achieve. Next slide, please. So when it comes to in-plan, we've identified four challenges through our extensive work with local and regional authorities, namely that they lack mechanisms to actually enact and enforce their energy and climate ambition within their territories. So they do have a lot of tools and mechanisms to actually plan energy and climate measures, but when it comes to enforcing them beyond public buildings, it can become quite challenging. We've also identified that there is a huge lack in vertical and horizontal integration, or at least alignment of plans and policies, meaning across varying levels of governments and as well as within different sectors. And there is, of course, linking to that, there is, of course, a lack of systemic, integrated, and consistent approach to energy and climate planning. And then finally, if all of these elements are in place, there is a lack of alignment between planning and the allocation of financial resources, meaning that municipalities don't always foresee funds for the measures that they would like to see implemented. Next slide, please. So once you have your challenges identified, and when you've honed in on them, it is then important to actually offer a real solution to them. The first point I would like to give here is that it is very important to focus on actual innovation, or at least replication of novel solutions to new sectors or territories. What I mean by this is, don't try to offer something that's being commercially done already, for instance. If the focus of your proposal is just to write 10 SecOps, then that's not really innovative, and maybe life isn't the best, that proposal wouldn't be the best way to use life's resources. However, if you foresee a service around this topic that is necessary to actually achieve a higher rate of, let's say, implementation of measures, then that is something that could be a good fit to what is required here. The next thing is to actually make sure that, oh, sorry, thank you. To make sure that what you foresee is actually feasible, and even more importantly, needed or wanted. This is more so an issue when it actually comes to the implementation, because if you, for instance, foresee a mechanism that is supposed to be taken up by cities and municipalities, but you haven't checked with them if this is actually something that they would be willing to do, you could potentially get funded and then have zero impacts in the field. And then finally, as we've seen in one of the previous slides, there are already a lot of projects out there doing a lot of different work. So you need to investigate is what you are trying to offer is already being done by another project, another consortia, or maybe even a commercial company. And in that case, maybe this topic is something you should skip. Next slide, please. So specifically then for in-plan, once we've identified this key issue of cities and municipalities not having good mechanisms to actually enforce the implementation of their energy and climate vision, we got inspired by some of the work that's being done in a few cities, for instance, Vienna, where they are basically using a layer of spatial planning, which they call energy spatial planning, to actually implement enforceable measures for their energy development. since they are in a relatively specific field of being both a state and a city, and they do have the capacity to pass such laws, which most municipalities across Europe don't. We've taken this principle and modified it to use the tools that most, if not all, cities, municipalities, and regions across Europe use, which is spatial planning, to actually integrate energy and climate measures directly there. So by basically defining higher levels of energy efficiency for specific zones, or for instance, higher standards for a shift away from natural gas, again, in some specific parts of a territory or across the whole territory that's being governed by the entity that we are discussing with. Cities, municipalities, regions can actually enforce their visions. So this was the first element of the whole process that we started developing, and basically this was the core around which we've created the service. Then the second level was, of course, how to actually get this to the potential end users, meaning cities, municipalities, regions. It would be difficult for us as a consortium to reach out to dozens or even hundreds of cities across Europe. So we went for the route of building capacities around this work, around these principles with regional energy, climate, or development agencies, which work with a broad range of cities and municipalities. And by teaching them how to implement this process, they can then spread it out across a wide range of cities and municipalities. And of course, all of this was communicated with the cities, regions that we work with generally. We've seen that there is actually a demand for this service, and then only based on that have we started building this up. And of course, the last part of this whole process is trying to teach and motivate cities to actually align the resources that they have available with the actual needs on the ground, meaning the measures that they would like to implement. Next slide, please. And then the final set of specific tips that I would like to give you focus around the consortium. So you need to make sure that the consortium that you are creating for the proposal actually matches the challenges at hand. So first off, select the partners who can actually fill the gaps that you have that you have yourself and with your, let's say, core team. So this means both in terms of the capacity, so the knowledge, but also in terms of the territory. If you want to cover a specific country, you of course need to make sure that you have somebody on board that can actually work there. In my personal experience, it is always good to have a core writing team. So of course you will get inputs from all of the partners that you have on board, but it's important that you have 1, 2, 3, 4 people that understand the whole document, that have an overview of the whole document, so that they can actually align the text, that they can make sure that there is a consistent style and theme to the writing, and that they can also make sure that everything is aligned in terms of timing, work, and so on and so forth. Then you want to pick partners that you actually want to work with. So if you have the best partner on paper, but that partner isn't someone that you're comfortable working with in the long term, that could cause issues. And keep in mind that the project will last for at least 2, maybe even 4, maybe even 5 years. So it is important that you are actually comfortable working with that entity. And then finally, if necessary, and if you have the space in your consortium, it is always good to add multipliers. By multipliers, I mean different types of associations and federations of, let's say, cities, agencies, or any type of stakeholder that you have on board, that can help you amplify your impacts and actually reach a broader set of stakeholders, and with that actually achieve the KPIs that you've envisioned. Next slide, please. Again, specifically for InPlan. So we, Regea, a regional energy and climate agency, are coordinating this project. And since the core idea behind the project was to teach other agencies to do this work and then spread it across to the local and regional governments, as we've heard before, they don't necessarily need to be partners within the project, but they are the key stakeholders. We've reached out to 4 other agencies in Europe, one in Romania, one in Sweden, in Italy, and in Ireland. to basically teach so that they can implement the principles behind in-plan in their own countries. We have FEDEREN, which is the European Federation of Regions and Regional Energy Agencies, to multiply the impacts we have. Urban Innovation Vienna has been implementing spatial energy planning in the city of Vienna, which was, as I mentioned, one of our key inspirations. So we've brought them in on board as the knowledge expert. The Technical University of the Shannons has a lot of experience in capacity building, so we've brought them in for this specific role. And IECP, the Institute for European Energy and Climate Policy, have a lot of experience in policy recommendations and advocacy. So we've brought them in for the process of institutionalization of the in-plan practice or the methodology that we've had at national and EU levels. So basically trying to reach out to decision makers and trying to motivate them to include the principles that we've created here in local and maybe even, sorry, in national and maybe even EU legislation. And the final real slide I have, just some general tips, which are probably very straightforward, and you've probably already keeping all of this in mind. So first and foremost, make sure you start early enough. For in-plan specifically, we started writing this 6 months in advance. Use the resources you have wisely. So time, you won't have as much time as you think you do. So focus on what is important. Follow the guidelines and guidance that you have, but also use common sense. Use all of the resources that you have available and ask for help. So your national contact points, your partners, and so on. Align the project with the company profile you have. So don't work on something that isn't natural for you. This will result in very difficult implementation. And finally, in case you fail, use the received feedback and reapply. In-plan was a reapplication of a Horizon project, and the feedback we received there was crucial. And that's it, just the last slide with my contacts in case you have any questions or want more information anytime in the future. Thank you. And sorry if I ran over time.
Perfect. Thank you, Tomislav. Thank you very much for the tips, summarized tips at the end, and also thank you for sharing the challenges you faced and the ways of finding a solution to overcome these. Okay, good. So now we pass the floor to the second coordinator, Sara Slojanova, that will speak about the Life Repower the Regions. So Sara is a project leader for Just Transition in the CEE Bankwatch Network and for the Repower the Regions. Please, Sara, the floor is yours to share your experience.
Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Yeah, great. So first of all, I would like to give a thanks to the colleagues of CINEA for this great opportunity to share our side of the story. These type of events are always a good opportunity not only to meet the colleagues, but also to share and to share our experiences and to learn from each other. So thank you very much. Just like Vivian introduced me, my name is Sara Stoyanova, and I'm the project leader for Life Repower the Regions in Bankwatch Network. This is actually the second life project that I have been involved in. The first one that we have been implementing was implemented from January 2021 until December 2023. And actually in March, we submitted the final report for evaluation. So I had the experience to have a full cycle within the program. And with the Life Repower the Regions, I had the opportunity to be involved from the very beginning, meaning from the moment that we saw the open call, making sure that our profile is in line with the requirements up until the point at the writing stage. Both of our life projects are in the direction of just transition because in Bankwatch Network, I'm specifically working at the energy transformation area, which consists of two teams. The first one is involved in the recovery and cohesion, and the second one, which I'm part of, is on the just transition. Yes, so let's jump in the first slide. So these are a couple of details about our project. So the title of our project is Ambitious and Inclusive Clean Energy Plans for Repowering the Just Transition Regions. The project acronym that we are using throughout our communication is Repower the Regions. This means that when we are communicating with our project partners, the internal communication, and with the project advisors from CENEA, this is the acronym that we are using. We have indicated here also the a link of our project website. At the moment is a little bit empty because we have only 2 deliverables because the project started in October. So we are still rather new, and we are currently in the making of the deliverables. The grant amount is close to 1.5 million euros. The duration is 30 months. And like I mentioned a few seconds ago, the starting date is October 2023. This was done as a kickoff meeting in person within the framework of our Just Transition campaign, annual campaign planning. And we dedicated a day to meet the project partners in person, but also to have an opportunity, the project advisor from CENEA, to meet our project team and partners. The end date is 31st of March 2026. So if we can go to the next slide, please. This is an additional information about our project objective. This is to ensure that the region's clean energy plans are aligned with EU 2030 climate goals and have strong support locally, and to provide practical guidelines and roadmaps for how to repower the regions. Just like in the previous life, our geographical
Sarah, do you hear us?
The call was also open to Ukraine. We decided to invite our partners, our member group from Ukraine. If we can go to the next slide, please. So this is some basic information on how was the application timeline for us. The total amount of time for the whole process was 6 months. By 6 months, I mean from the moment that we checked the open call until the moment that we submitted the project proposal to CENEA. So within these 6 months, we allocated 1 month to set up the team. What I mean by this is we already had a good cooperation with our team from the already ongoing live that we had. And because the Bankwatch network is also consisting of our member groups, so it was easy for us to set up a consortium, to set up the project partners. But still, we needed to allocate at least a month in order for our project partners to get their formal approval from their supervisors, that they can focus on the project. And because we are working with 9 countries, we needed to indeed allocate this time. Once we set up the team, then we allocated around 2 months to brainstorm and discuss on the direction and the focus of the project proposal, which took around 2 months. During this time, we had extensive calls with our project partners, but also with the project team that was going to write the proposal. Also, we asked our project partners to have an informal, let's say, type of research to test the ground, to test the grounds, to see what is the feedback on the local level, and whether we have whether what was in our mind at that time, whether it can be feasible or not. And then we allocated 3 months for the writing and the proofreading. This might seem now as a lot of time, but actually it's not a lot of time. It's, I would say, the right amount of time. And be aware that as the deadline is approaching, you might even have to sacrifice a couple of weekends, just like our team did. So the whole process was 3 months, and then the submission of the proposal was in November 2022, and then we received the positive response on in March 2023. During the months of April and July, we were introduced with the project advisor from CINEA, where she gave us clear guidelines and the steps that we needed to follow until the signature of the grant agreement. And then, yes, like I mentioned in the previous slide, the start of the project was in October 2023. Can we go to the next slide, please? What we implemented during this project application timeline. Here you can see a couple of bullet points that I made. So the first one, making sure to link the ongoing live project with the proposal. So what we want, the reason why I mentioned already in the beginning the first live project was because what we wanted to do with that live project was the first step, and we wanted to make a link with the Repower the Region. So we wanted to have a continuation of what we started already, because it wasn't in our agenda that we start something and then we stop and then we focus on something else. So it was a very challenging task for us to make sure that we are linking what we started already and making sure that we have a right continuation with the next project, which means with the Repower the Regions. In the first live project, we started with the development of the territorial just transition plans and their approvals, and now we're focusing more on what is happening on the ground, meaning that we identified during the implementation of the first live project that a lot of capacity building is needed on the ground, where indeed we allocated 2 work packages only on that. Then making sure to read the instructions in the application thoroughly. It's very important to read the gray little boxes in the application. The application itself is very long indeed, but I strongly encourage you to read every single one of those gray boxes, because it can really give you the right guideline, and it can give you the right information, and it can really put the section where you're writing about into a focus. Then extensive talks with all the project partners. The project partners were all the time involved in the whole in the whole process. Not only having the extensive talks, but also we were sharing with them the draft versions that we would be preparing for the proposal, where they could go through and see what is feasible for them, because they would be the ones who are going to be implementing this on the ground. Making sure to answer all the requested information in clear and simple language. Simple and clear language is also the key to a successful application. Try to use very simple sentences, very short sentences, because the people who are going to be reading the proposal are people who have nothing to do with this. So it is very important to make it clear to them what exactly you are trying to achieve. And making sure that there is a grant writer who will guide you. In Bankwatch Network, our management team made an excellent decision to hire a grant writer, and we invited our grant writer to join us in the last 2 weeks before the submission of the proposal to go through it. And we saw that we needed to do lots of adjustments and lots of corrections, because throughout the whole application, she managed to put a lot of comments on where additional information was needed, what we should eliminate, what should be what we are supposed to be focusing on. So so my advice is that if your organization has the means to hire such a person, or at least to hire a consultant, this could be an excellent this can be an excellent opportunity for your proposal. And if you can go to the last slide, please. So why this was successful for us? As you can see on the first bullet point, based on our previous experience, we had very strong lessons learned. So before we applied for the Repower the Regions proposal project, we actually had another attempt and where we submitted a proposal, which I'm going to be honest, we didn't get good feedback. We didn't even manage to get to the threshold. We got, I think, a very low score of points. And at that time, yes, of course, as a team, we were devastated, but we actually took it as a very positive sign that we went through it and we made an analysis of what worked and what didn't work. And we managed to really take a different approach than our experience. So the approaches that we took is, reading the instructions closely, starting early, making sure that you are communicating well with the team, making sure that you have all the available information, and if you need additional research, make it. So when with these lessons learned, we got, at least for our team, we got a high score, which was 80.5 points. And as you all know, the threshold is 55 points. And one of the feedbacks that we got from the evaluation was that our project was very ambitious, but at the same time, it was very realistic to be implemented. So that's all from my side. I'm 2 minutes above the the time. So thanks a lot. And if you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out to me. Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you so much. Thank you for highlighting the importance of the application timeline. Good to hear that you saw as a positive sign their submission, and good also to hear also from Tomislav that the feedback received from us was helpful to resubmit. And without any further ado, we now pass to the Q&A. I see that already there are quite a few questions in Slido. Thank you for that. You can still keep on uploading your questions and vote for the ones you prefer. We can now start with the questions. Perfect. Okay, we started with the first one, has already 5 votes. Do the clean energy transition plans and strategies in municipalities and regions involve energy communities on the live CET local call? I'll probably invite my colleagues now from
Yes, I can take
CENEA.
that.
Michele, thank you.
Yes, I mean, they can be part of the stakeholders that need to be involved and engaged, as we said during the presentation. Of course, if the proposal is really about energy communities, so if the specific focus of the proposal is about energy communities, then there is a specific topic in the live CET call, which is called ENERCOM. The acronym is ENERCOM, which is, really about energy communities.
Perfect. I'm going to the next. 23 local proposal evaluation remarked lack of ambition of energy-related KPIs. The call aims organizational change and capacity building, so direct energy returns are inherently lower. Can you help us understand this requirement better?
Yes. So the topic is focused on implementation, as we said. So the need is really to deliver plans and strategies and implement sustainable energy actions in the short, medium, and longer term. So a number of indicators are also related to that. And in particular, among the indicators, there are common indicators, like so-called energy-related indicators. So we expect, of course, that proposals are ambitious and demonstrate energy savings and renewable energy production. The level of ambition, of course, is very specific to the action. I mean, I cannot judge on that specific proposal, but as said, I mean, resubmitting is an opportunity to improve a proposal based on the comments of the experts, the comments received by the experts.
Perfect. How can we demonstrate the mobilization of stakeholders? Perhaps Elisa, would you like to take that?
Yes, thank you, Vivian. I can take that. Yes, so this is a very relevant question. As I said earlier, local and regional authorities are key stakeholders for this type of topic. So even though it's not mandatory to have them as beneficiaries, their involvement needs to be proved through, for example, specific tasks in the proposal. Also, they have to be very well identified, understanding what are the needs, their constraints, and indeed outline the proposed activities with them. Obviously, in the proposal preparation phase, you can submit also letter of support, which will signal their interest from local and regional authorities in the activities that you want to implement.
Thank you, Elisa. What is an ambitious capacity building program? Again,
Yes,
Elisa,
so this is also a very good question. And in terms of a capacity building program, so there is a key focus on this topic, on this type of activity. And I would say that capacity building programs not only need to be ambitious, but also quoting from the text of the call, the capacity building has to be extensive and in-depth with lasting effect, which needs to be tailored to the specific, for example, linguistic needs of the stakeholders you want to involve, you want to train, you want to build capacity with. Here, I will invite applicants to look at the topic-specific indicators that, if properly quantified, can really already show to evaluators the level of ambition of this capacity building program. Just to mention the number of policymakers, public officers with improved capacity, as well as the average numbers of training hours per participant, are already elements that allow evaluators to see how ambitious the capacity building program is.
Great. What do you mean by organizational structures?
Yes, I can take that. The idea of these organizational structures is to facilitate the implementation of the plans in a way which consider different sectors and not only energy. So the topic is clear, so these structures can be new and then should be established, or can be existing and then they should be enhanced to perform and achieve their objectives. So the topic offers an example, but it is only an example, mentioning that these structures can include cross-sectoral teams in local and regional authorities. So this is an example, and we expect proposal to work on that and propose the best organizational structure which could work depending on the context. Of course, this structure should be able also to, as said, facilitate the dialogue with other stakeholders, and as long as they are aligned with the requirements of the call, the format and implementation of the structure is really context specific.
Thank you, Michele. Does the LIFE program intend to support policy-related capacitation projects on the call LIFE CET Local? What would be the desired projects and/or outcomes?
So the topic is about providing capacity, skills, and structures to local and regional authorities. The aim is to deliver and implement the plans and strategies for the clean energy transition. So this is the main aim of the topic. So I'm not sure if that replies the question. I'm not sure what the question means with policy-related capacitation projects, but the desired project and outcomes are, some of them at least, are listed in the list of indicators, and they include, for instance, plans and strategies.
Okay. Can renovating public building that is owned by local government and is in a bad shape currently and turn it into smart low energy building be a good project idea for CET for rural, distant, inhabited island in Croatia nature park?
I mean, for the live clean energy transition program as a whole, this might be a relevant proposal. I would say that probably the local topic is not the most relevant one for this kind of activities. There are other topics which can offer better opportunities. For instance, the project development assistance. There are facilitation structures for renovation of public buildings. There is also work on one-stop shops for building renovation. So for the local topic itself, the renovation of one public building is not the right approach, because as said, we look more for strategic plans and strategies.
Great, thank you. Do the heating and cooling plants need to be delivered by the project or only support the development process?
I would say yes. I mean, we expect the cities and regions, through the support received, to deliver these plans, implement those plans. And one indicator in particular is about the number of policies, plans, and strategies established through the action, which leads to the fact that those plans should be delivered.
Great, and it seems that we're going to make it to all of the questions. Regarding the scale of the actors involved, would it be feasible to have a region representing different municipalities on which not all have more than 45,000 inhabitants?
I mean, yes, I would say yes, because bundling efforts at regional or other government levels is mentioned in the topic text.
Okay, I think there was well, the question went down. So
On the
yes,
yes,
it was a reshuffle because maybe there was another vote.
3 beneficiaries.
Okay,
I
why
see
do we
that.
need 3 beneficiaries from 3 different countries if the project is about local idea, not yet related to other countries?
In general, this is a requirement for almost all the topics in the code. So we have 3 different organizations from 3 different countries. Moreover, I mean, apart from the administrative requirement, we observed in the past that European cooperation and exchanges in this field is very valuable and very important to support cities and regions in developing and delivering strategies and plans.
Perfect. What is the expected project lifetime?
We don't have any specific requirement on that. There is only a suggestion on the proposed contribution from the European Union, which is up to 1.75 million euro. So this can give an idea of the appropriate duration. We usually see proposals which propose 36 months as a duration. But as said, this is not a requirement. I mean, we can, depending on the proposal, we can have different durations. However, taking into account the contribution that you expect to receive, you can have an idea of the duration of your activities.
Okay, and then there are 3 more. I don't know, shall we take them or we have 1 more minute? Could we allocate budget in the partners to finance the transportation of stakeholders which are not part of the consortium in the different capacity building events?
Yes, this is allowed by the grant agreement.
Perfect. And would capacitation of policy makers around energy communities and its role on energy transition plans be more adequate on local topic or ENERCOM?
This is difficult to reply in a very straightforward way. I would encourage to really read in details the two different topics and double check which topic is more relevant for the idea the proposals has in mind.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay, and what is a set plan or strategy?
Basically, any plan or strategy at local or regional level which is focused on the achievement of energy and climate targets. They could be sustainable energy and climate action plans under the Covenant of Mayors. They can be energy plans. They can be other integrated plans, for instance, energy and spatial planning together. There is no clear requirement on that. I mean, as long as it is clear that it is a plan or strategy which works on the achievement of climate and energy targets.
Very good. Okay, great. Thank you, Michele. It seems that we covered all of the questions, and now there is a poll on if you're satisfied with the information you received during the session. Please address that. In case you have additional questions that you haven't raised them today, I would invite you to send this on our functional mailbox on cinea-life-set@ec.europa.eu. And all of the recordings of this session of today and this session and all of the other sessions of today will be available on Cinea's website very soon. Thank you very much once again to all of the speakers. Thank you for each one of you that attending remotely the session. We really hope that we receive a good number of smart and convincing and forward-looking and engaging proposals across Europe. And on behalf of Cinea, I would like to wish you all good luck in your submission. Once again, thank you very much and have a good afternoon.